Hello, welcome to Inside the London podcast, the Knowledge Exchange, the podcast where we explore how education, industry, and innovation interacts in a global city. I'm your host, Maciek, and today we're joined by Michael Ho, a fintech builder and head of strategy at Transport. In this conversation, we explore how graduates can prepare for fast-moving fintech environments, what makes candidates stand out in a global industry, and how international experience translates into a better business decision. Welcome, Michael. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me as well. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. So we're going to have this is a simple 6 challenge. I'm sure you'll be very good at answering those. So our first challenge is what we all ask people from different industries, all the employers. And the challenge is about bringing and bridging theory and practice. So Michael, fintech moves fast. Regulations, products, and all tech all change weekly. Do you find that graduates entering the space are ready to apply what they've learned, or they still need to unlearn a lot once they hit the real world? What's your take on it?
I guess education through higher educations like university, it's great that they have the foundation of how business work in different departments. For example, accountants, these are the knowledge that you have to acquire from university, of course. There are other things like theories that you can learn from schools. But I think you're right about unlearning things as well, because it's not even for graduates. Is for every person that they want to get on another job. Sometimes they have to unlearn things that they have learned from the previous job because everywhere is different. I guess it's more important for new graduates to sort of understand that part as well, because we all been through that, right? We've been to universities and then we had experience that is actually not the same thing. Like things that we've learned from schools are not 100% able to apply through reality. What I would say, it's very important for people to unlearn, and also as a fresh start to be open-minded, the willingness to learn new things as well. I think that's the most important things, no matter what industries you're in.
It is tough out there, and this is a very crowded graduate market. It sort of reminds me what happened about 15, 16 years ago, just post the financial crisis. It's very tight. It's very competitive. So when hiring in your industry for fintech or strategy roles, generally fintech, what actually makes a young candidate stand out for you? Perhaps does the international cross-cultural experience give them an advantage in such global industry?
I think after what happened in 2008, and also technology advanced as well, internet is exploding. That at that time, things are more connected. No matter where you are, you can do business elsewhere. You can be based in the UK and you can have clients elsewhere. You can have clients in US or wherever. Basically, I think that's the advantage that we have in this generation of people that are working. We have to understand one thing: is the globalization. It's real. There are opportunities that require international exposure, especially maybe in fintech and our role. We do a lot of international trade. We facilitate a lot of international trade, basically. If you're multicultural, for example, you have exposure to many other different culture, you get to understand what potentially your suppliers or your clients need from that sense. Because I think at the end of the day, like you said, it's a very, very crowded market in the job market at the moment because of a lot of reasons, economically or whatever reasons. In order to stand out, you always need to have something special, because nowadays, like I said, globalization, it's happening. A lot of businesses are doing business globally. I think in order to stand out, you have to have the exposure, or you, as a fresh grad, maybe you don't have the exposure, but you need to have like I said, the willingness of learning new things, learning new, talk to different people from different backgrounds. I think that's the key in order to stand out as an individual.
Do you think there's something that came across our previous conversation with some of our guests, and many of them maybe word differently, but they could talk about adaptability in a sense, what's the ratio or way, between the technical, expertise and adaptability? So how much weight do you place on these two things, the technical expertise versus a candidate's ability to adapt?
If we're hiring a fresh graduate, I think the technical bit is not as important. Like I said, unless I'm hiring a lawyer or accountant, of course they need to have a license, or they need to have the the certification that they need to have. But I mean, other than that, I don't think technicality is as important as the experienced person because, experience comes with skill set and everything. But as a new graduate, I don't think from the employer's point of view, we should expect too much from there because they're new to the world like babies. You don't expect a baby to run right from the first day.
Not at first.
So that's why, at least from our point of view, it's very important attitude is very important as an individual, no matter if
Hmm.
you're a fresh graduate or, at what point in your life. I think attitude is always the most important thing. And that's a good sort of way to stand out from the crowd as well, because not everyone have the right attitude. So if people or graduates do want to stand out, they should work on, building its own personality, his own character, the way of doing things, and also the open-minded willingness to learn, like you and I said earlier.
Now, this is interesting because one of the things that the universities supposed to prepare you for the career. Many graduates, especially in finance, pursue the big four, the other finance brands and big banks and other financial service industry. But you've built your own career in a very agile, disruptive environment, right? There's the point of fintech is to disrupt the big boys. So what real world skills do you think universities should focus or could focus to prepare students for startup and fast scaling fintechs? Anything you can think of?
I think one thing that university can do for the students, of course, university to build you the hard skills in terms of, like I said, the theory about business management, the theory about how you do accounting, things like that. Of course, these are the hard skills that they need to learn because at some point they will come across, even though you're not in those expertise. That's something that the university can also do is to build out the soft skills. When it comes to soft skills, I'm talking about, his communication skills and also basically the way they deal with people in the future. Because I always emphasize business is a bunch of people. We're building a bunch of people. So that's why communication is always the key, no matter, if you are a fresh graduate or what, at some point of your career. So I think that's a very good skills that at early stage of their life, they build out the communication skills. Then in the future, when they really need to get a job, first of all, you need to get through the HR. It's communication. How are you going to get through the CEO of the company is communications as well. So that's one soft skill that I think they should learn from the very early stage of their life. Another thing, it's also, I think what's missing is the resourcefulness, because especially in industries like fintech or challenging industries, we're trying to challenge, like you said, the big boys in our industry. It's very important to understand you need to find a way, because building a startup or building your career is always about finding ways, right? Otherwise there won't be fintech, otherwise there won't be internet or any advanced technologies we have today. We have to think out of the box in order to make things happen. So that's a very important skill if people can master from the beginning of the career, or when they even before they graduate, they're going to stand out for sure. That's the people that we want to hire as well, for sure.
This is just a quick follow up. If maybe we could take inspiration from yourself, your own career path, what skills helped you to move from big industry or like financial industry to startup? Like, is there anything you can think of yourself that helped you most when moving into fintech?
I think one very important thing, it's you have to, from the beginning, you need to know why you're doing that. Why do you want to be in fintech? Is there a specific things that you want to achieve? Are you trying to, let's say you have a big ambition to, change the industry, or it's also a personality thing. Like, okay, some people work for corporate and some people work for smaller companies, startup or fintech. This is very, in terms of that, it's very personal. Everyone's different. Because for me, the reason why I like this environment is because I'm a person that cannot take orders. Unfortunately, I don't like to listen to people. I'm not sure if it's a good skill or not, but I mean, at some point it comes in very useful, because the things that we're doing now is trying to tell, let's say, the traditional bank or the traditional finance industry that things are not working and there are things to improve. that's what, and they didn't listen, and that's why fintech comes out, right? So I think that's the skill that you need to sort of learn is you have to keep your curiosity, and you also have to be very sensitive of what you want to achieve as well.
Yeah, I suppose the best thing to do would be to, perhaps universities to expose students more directly to the startup culture, which is something, part of our partnerships with universities and schools and startups like yours is to expose them to that. But, you know, if it was up to you, for instance, what kind of partnerships, so this is our fourth challenge now, but what kind of partnerships between universities and fintechs would you genuinely think help bridge the talent gap, right? Like up to you. If like you were the design your own partnership, it's up to you. You've got a full say over it. What would you think would be the thing to help bridge the gap?
When we talk about partnerships, we're talking about mutual benefits, right?
Yes. So
Or
mutual
even,
collaborations between the two, one benefits the other.
yeah, so even three ways as well. So the partnership, it's going to have, it has to benefit the school, of course. It has to benefit the students in order for them to, grow in the future, to find a job that they want to do, or they want to start a business of their own. At the early stage, they can sort of experience that even before they, graduate. And of course, from the industry point of view, we need talents as well. So it's like a win-win-win situation for the partnerships between, university and the industry. So I mean, if I were the designer of the program, I think there are a few things that we can do. The very first thing, the easiest thing to do is, of course, we can bring in university students to come work for fintech, let's say for a couple of months or a short period of time, just for them to experience what it really is in the real world, so that they can sort of realize from the very early stage of their, even before they start a career, it's great to sort of help them to analyze what they want to do, and also what things will help them in the future in order to, let's say, get a job. So that's one very easy thing to do is like, internship. It's something that it's very, very good to do that. And we're doing that as well. And, the countries that we're sort of licensed in, and we have offices as well. So the other things that also I think we can do is with the university, because they have different lectures about whatever, like finance, about business management, or anything around business or finance. I think from the industry point of view, we always can go to the university and, let's say, have a lecture or have a workshop with the student to sort of get to understand what they need from the student's point of view. What are they thinking even before they apply for a job? What are they afraid of? Because I feel like now there is a problem of fear that they can't get a job in the environment nowadays. And so that's why I think it will be great for us to help them to understand a little bit more their fear. And of course, with our experience in the real world, we can bring them up to speed and, prepare for their futures as well.
Great one, because this is something that we've heard from one of our previous speakers who was talking about how actually telling the students about the amount of employees out there, they don't know they exist. It's a number of, because there's like simply everyone's in their own environments, right? You've the fintech, the big industry, and the student graduates, and they don't talk to each other because they don't know they exist. So it'd be great to have that sort of a partnership as you described. There's internships, of course, just get them out of their own bubbles. Because we tend to be in our bubbles. So that'll be a great thing to do if we could do that. And this seems to be the common thread across all the speakers we've had so far. Now, on to our next question, which is somewhat connected because, of course, the graduates have changed because the nature of how they study have changed. You mentioned soft skills. And of
Mm.
course, a lot of them have spent, studying online and not so much in the classroom. Something, again, that was brought up by some of our speakers about the fact that they need that soft skills. And you did mention that yourself. So this is evolving expectation post-pandemic. And we ask that everyone. Have you noticed yourself a change in what young professionals value since the pandemic? Perhaps more focus on purpose, flexibility, human leadership, anything like that?
There's definitely a shift before, like pre-COVID and post-COVID. I mean, even the way people work are very different as well. We were talking about now it's 2025.
Yes.
Years ago, 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, we don't know what work from home is, right? There are lots of cultural change in the workspace in term, and also the expectation from the employees and employers as well. It's always changing. It's just that, COVID sort of, because of COVID, there are lots of things that have been changed by force. We have to work from home. So everyone get, experience of working from home, whether it works or not. Then of course, some people say it works perfectly because I work fine at home, better than, working in the office, because people tend to chat with me, right? Some people prefer going to the office. I guess it really dependent on what role you're in. In back office, probably it's, working from home will work. But like it emphasized in the very beginning, I think no matter what you do, some soft skills will come into the picture at some point where we're talking about working environment, because like I said, communication is always the key to build a business with a bunch of people. So from my point of view, no matter if you are a, front office or back office, it's always important to communicate with each other, even internally. I'll give you a very quick example about for our industry, we have a lot of internal conflict between compliance and sales team, let's say. There's also always this problem in the banking industry and payments, because we are from different perspective. Compliance job is to safeguard the company, make sure the company is fine. We're not getting any fine from the regulator, because from our company, we're licensed in 6 countries. So we're heavily regulated in the payment and fintech side to support the clients globally. Then, of course, from the sales point of view, we want to do everything. We want to support, however we can. But unfortunately, the world, it's not like this. So we have to strike the balance, unfortunately. So, because I remember one time that someone asked me a question about how do you balance the relationship, or how do you balance compliance issue and also sales opportunities? And I said it very clearly: the only way is to communicate. I think that's what's missing from people, because like I said, everyone is coming from a different perspective. They have different goals. They may even have different goals. So in order to achieve it, I think it's very important to, as a soft skills, you need to understand each other. You have to put yourself into someone else's shoes in order to see from their point of view why they behave in this way and why do they have to, do things in this way. It definitely helped a lot through communications. Sometimes it is always about misunderstanding with each other, unfortunately. So that's why it's very important, even post COVID. I think it's very important how smooth the communication channels is in order to work towards the same goal.
It very much correlates with, again, with some of the things that other previous employers said about what's been happening in the last 5 years and the changes, and how a lot of Gen Z tend to be more prioritizing more mission-driven work over even salary and the different principles, but also the fact that some employers do force the graduates to be 5 days in the office just to get them up to speed in the soft skills, which perhaps they've missed because of how things have just changed in the last 5 years. So that sort of nicely leads us to our last challenge, which is to do with, from your own perspective, about the return on investment of international education or global experience for fintech professionals. We sort of touched on it as well. You did touch as well about the exposure, adaptability. How does the global mindset translate into better business decisions, in your opinion?
I think first of all, I really want to emphasize international exposure. It's gold. No matter what industries you're working in, it's very important. When we're younger, parents told me, or some wise people would tell you, explore the world rather than reading your books, right? So of course you can learn knowledge from the book, but you can't see it from your eyes. It's different. So if you have international exposure, you study internationally from a different background, even different languages, it's different ball. It's a complete different ball games. Wherever you wanna, accelerate, or you want your career to be in. For example, if you're from elsewhere coming to the UK, you want to study in the UK. Either you go back to your own country, or you want to stay in the UK. You're gonna have a huge potential, and you're gonna have a huge advantages comparing with the people who don't have the international exposure. Because, like I said, now it's all about globalization. It's about how you can learn from each other, from the world, how you can learn from your friends from different cultures, different backgrounds. Of course, the professors that speak different languages from different countries, from different cultures as well. It's because if you learned something from one place, you get one. if you learned something from many places, you get, things get multiplied. It's as simple as that. And in the world we're in now, it's you need it. I think it's a requirement to be exposed internationally. I'm not saying that okay, you have to study internationally in order to get that. No, because it also based on if you're capable as well. It's a different thing. But under your capacity or your family's capacity, you need to find ways to expose yourself to international culture, and also, you can make friends in your local country from different countries as well, right? So there are things that we can do within our capacity, but the principle is you need to learn from people around you, and also you need to learn from people outside your country, elsewhere, so that you are knowledgeable in the sense that you know what other culture is doing, even though you're not in that culture. And you learn from that as well. You pick the good things from the culture, and then you try to minimize the bad things that, maybe the culture is not doing that great. And then you combine it, that's who you are. And, it's going to be a huge advantage of a fresh graduate students who want to get a job. No matter where they are, you always have the advantage if you're exposed internationally.
It's exactly what we've been hearing, and you pretty much said that what we hear from, well, of course, industry, fintech. The cultural agility is important, and the value of it is very important. Knowing exactly what's going on across the world, and this is but from both sides, employer and employee sides, and
Exactly. Yeah.
it's great to hear that, because this is something that we're trying to emphasize on, the sort of like global exposure and cultural agility. Thank you, but this is great. So what we want now is just for you to ask the question. This is something that you may thought of already, and this is the question is directed from your perspective to university. And the university, I mean a person that will be in charge of a course or a study in any university across the globe. So do you have a question for our next guest? Imagine that you can ask them the most controversial question. You could be controversial or not controversial, it's up to you, but do you have a question for our next guest?
If we're talking about to university in particular, probably I would ask the question of, because you asked a question just now to me as well, like in terms of what's missing from the
Hmm.
university. I think that's a great question that I think we should ask the university themselves, because from their point of view, they exist for like hundreds of years now, and now we have sort of, let's say, a crisis of hiring people, and that's a gap in the job market. What has changed from their point of view, and what's missing that they think they can also do better in order to help the student or help the employers in the job market to find the right candidates?
That just basically reverse the question to them, because it's a
That's
maybe
right.
they have an idea, but they sort of stuck in the way they are, because
Yeah,
things
I
tend
guess
to.
I guess sometimes university need to figure it out themselves as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay,
right, yeah, yes.
yeah, you're nurturing the students, and where do you want them to go? So I think that's a question that we should ask the university.
We're compiling them, Michael. We're compiling quite a bunch of them now to sort of make
Brilliant.
into and challenge them in a good way, of course, but because
In a good
challenge
way.
is good. Yeah, yeah. It's through challenges that we can sort of be let loose and think of different ways rather than just being stuck in a rut, I suppose. But this was great, Michael. Thank you very much for joining us. A huge thank you to you for sharing your insights into the skills graduate need to thrive in this fast-moving industry. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow us on our favorite podcast platform. We're on YouTube. We've got some sound bites, or of course, ready already on LinkedIn. I'm Maciek. This was Michael, our guest. Thank you for listening, and join us next time as we continue to exchange knowledge with leaders shaping the future of work and education. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.